Fiancé went no contact and called off the wedding after his sister convinced my fiancé I was cheating on him with her husband, and her husband completely backed her up on the accusation. 3 years later, I get a call from his mother telling me all about how her daughter's now ex-husband just confessed to her dirty business in an email to my ex-fiancé. Now they want me to show up so that they can give me the apology I deserve. I was engaged to Frank, 34, male. We had been together for almost 5 years. Our wedding was planned for the summer, and everything seemed perfect. We had picked out the venue, sent out invitations, and even had our honeymoon destination booked. I thought we had a solid relationship built on trust and understanding, but I was completely blindsided by what happened next. Some backstory. Frank and I met at work when we were 26. He had just joined my department and we quickly became close. A few months later, we started dating and everything felt natural. Frank was kind, funny, and made me feel truly loved. A year later, when we were 27, he proposed during a weekend getaway. I was overjoyed and so was everyone else, except his sister Chrissy, 45, female. She never really liked me. She was not openly hostile, but there was always an underlying tension. She made passive-aggressive remarks and questioned our relationship in subtle ways. I tried to win her over, but it never seemed to work. Frank told me not to worry, that she'd come around. But I always had this nagging feeling that she was just waiting for a reason to turn him against me. Frank's sister Chrissy and her husband Glenn, 35, male, were always a big part of his life. Chrissy was very involved in everything Frank did, sometimes to an extent that felt suffocating. She had always been protective of him, and I could tell from the beginning that she was not entirely fond of me. She was not outright rude, but there was always this underlying hostility. I brushed it off, thinking she was just a little overprotective of her younger brother. Glenn was more neutral, or at least that's what I believed. He and I never really had a deep connection, but we were always polite and cordial at family gatherings. I never had any reason to believe he had any ill will towards me or that he would play a role in completely destroying my relationship with Frank. Everything started unraveling a few months before the wedding. Frank became distant, moody, and short-tempered. At first, I thought it was just wedding stress. Planning a wedding is overwhelming, and he was juggling work and other responsibilities. But soon, it became clear that this was not just stress. He stopped initiating conversations, barely looked me in the eye, and even started sleeping on the couch. When I asked him what was wrong, he either brushed me off or acted like I was being paranoid. I couldn't figure out what I had done wrong. One night, he came home furious. He didn't yell, but the anger was radiating off him. He said he needed space and left to stay at his sister's house. That was the last time we spoke normally, and from then on, everything spiraled. I tried reaching out, but he ignored my calls and texts. When I finally got a chance to talk to him in person, he looked at me with pure hatred and told me he knew everything. I had no idea what he was talking about. That is when I found out that Chrissy had told him I was cheating on him, not just with anyone, but with Glenn. She had convinced him that I was having an affair with her husband. And to make matters worse, Glenn backed up her claims. Apparently they had proof, messages, calls, and witness accounts. I was floored. It didn't make any sense. I had never even spent time alone with Glenn. He and I were never close. And yet somehow they had fabricated an entire affair that Frank believed without question. The worst part was that Frank didn't even ask me for my side of the story. He didn't ask for an explanation, didn't demand answers. He just took their word for it and decided I was guilty. He packed up his things and officially called off the wedding. My world shattered. I had spent years building a life with this man and within days it was all gone. I tried defending myself. I tried reasoning with him, asking him to at least listen to me. I begged him to think logically. Why would I cheat on him with Glenn of all people? What did Chrissy and Glenn even have to gain from this? But none of it mattered. He had already made up his mind. He had completely shut me out, and nothing I said would change his perception of me. I tried reaching out to mutual friends and family members, hoping someone would talk sense into him, but Chrissy had already spread the story to everyone. By the time I could even attempt to defend myself, the damage was done. People started treating me differently. Some looked at me with pity, others with disgust. Even those who believed me said it was not their place to get involved. The worst part was knowing that Glenn went along with it. I had no idea what his motives were, but he played his role perfectly. He told people that he felt guilty and that he confessed to the affair out of remorse. I couldn't wrap my head around why he would do this. Chrissy, I understood. She had always been controlling and manipulative when it came to Frank. But Glenn? I couldn't understand what he stood to gain from destroying my relationship. I went from planning a wedding to being completely cut off from the man I loved within weeks. There was no closure, no chance to explain myself, no way to prove my innocence. The invitations were canceled. The honeymoon was refunded. And I was left with nothing but confusion and betrayal. I still don't know why Chrissy did it. Was it jealousy? Did she just want me gone? And Glenn, why did he go along with it? Did he have something to hide? Was this a cover-up for his own infidelity? 3 years had passed since everything fell apart. I had done my best to move on. It was not just about losing Frank. It was about losing the life I had built, the trust I had in people, and the belief that love could withstand anything. I had to rebuild from scratch. And while I had come a long way, the memories still lingered. Then out of nowhere, I got a call from Frank's mother. It was not a number I had saved anymore, but I still recognized it. I stared at the screen for a long time before finally answering. She wasted no time getting to the point. Glenn had confessed. But what she told me next left me completely stunned. It was not Chrissy's doing. She had never lied about me. She had never accused me of anything. She had believed the accusations just like everyone else. The person behind it all had been Glenn. For 3 years, I had blamed Chrissy, thinking she was the one who had destroyed my life. I had imagined her plotting against me, determined to ruin my relationship with Frank. But in reality, she had been just another pawn in Glenn's twisted game. He had been the one to fabricate the entire affair, to plant doubts in Frank's head, to manipulate Chrissy into believing it was true. And now, with his marriage to Chrissy over, he had finally come clean. Frank's mother explained that Glenn had wanted to break the family apart. He had been having an affair of his own and knew that if he were caught, Chrissy's family would turn against him. He needed a distraction, something that would cause enough chaos to keep everyone from looking too closely at him. So he picked me as his scapegoat. He told Frank I was having an affair with him, knowing that Frank would believe him over me. He twisted details, planted fake evidence, and manipulated his wife into backing up his story without her even realizing it. When I thought back to everything that had happened, it made sense in a way that was horrifying. Glenn had always been charming, always quick with a joke, always the kind of person people trusted. He used that trust to convince Frank, to convince Chrissy, to convince everyone that I was guilty. And in the end, he got exactly what he wanted: attention away from his own lies and a broken family left in the wreckage. I sat there listening to Frank's mother, feeling a wave of emotions I couldn't even name. Anger, definitely, but also a deep, crushing sense of exhaustion. I had spent 3 years thinking that Chrissy had been my enemy when in reality she had been just as much of a victim as I was. And now Frank's family wanted me to come back. They wanted me to sit down with them, to listen to their apologies, to let them try to make things right. But how could they? What could they possibly say that would undo what had been done? Frank had chosen to believe Glenn over me without hesitation. He had cut me off, ended our engagement, and never once looked back. Chrissy had played a role, even if unknowingly, in tearing me down. And now that they knew the truth, they expected me to come back, to hear them out, to let them ease their guilt. I thought about everything I had lost. The years of self-doubt, the humiliation, the way people had whispered behind my back. I had rebuilt my life on my own, without their support, without their apologies. And now they wanted to drag me back in. I didn't know what to do. Did I owe them this meeting? Did I need closure? Or had I already found it on my own? The idea of sitting in a room with them, listening to their guilt, made me sick. But at the same time, the thought of walking away forever without hearing what they had to say left me uneasy. Am I the asshole if I refuse to meet with them? Update 1. I discussed the situation with my mother, and even though she acknowledges the fact that it was unfair to me, she thinks just for closure, I should hear them out. She said, "The last thing you should ever do is consider what they are saying after everything they put you through, but you should listen to what they have to say for your own sake." I was not sure how I felt about it. On one hand, I didn't owe them anything. They had already made up their minds about me once, and it took 3 years and a confession from Glenn for them to even reconsider. On the other hand, my mother had a point. Maybe hearing them out would finally close this chapter for me. Maybe it would give me the peace I never got when everything fell apart. I weighed my options for a few days. Part of me wanted to ignore them completely, to keep moving forward without looking back. But another part of me wondered, what exactly did they want to say? Did they truly regret what they had done? Or was this just an attempt to soothe their own guilt? And if I did go, would I be strong enough to walk away without letting their words affect me? Ultimately, I decided I would meet them, but only on my terms. I would not go in expecting apologies to fix anything. I would not allow them to manipulate me into forgiving them if I was not ready. I would simply listen, take what I needed, and leave the rest behind. So, I went. The moment I walked in, I felt the weight of their stares. Frank looked uncomfortable. His mother looked guilty. And Chrissy, she just looked exhausted. The tension in the room was suffocating, but I kept my expression neutral. I reminded myself why I was there. Not for them, but for me. I took a deep breath, sat down, and waited to hear what they had to say. Silence stretched between us for a long moment before Frank's mother finally spoke. Her voice was heavy, carrying the weight of regret. She explained how Glenn had sent Frank an email detailing everything he had done, how he had manipulated the situation, how he had played all of them against each other. Apparently, he had wanted to create a rift in the family for his own reasons. Whether it was resentment, some personal vendetta, or just pure malice, I don't know. And honestly, I wasn't sure I cared anymore. Chrissy had been just as blindsided as everyone else. She had believed Glenn's accusations because she had trusted her husband, never realizing that he had been feeding her lies to turn her against me. When she found out the truth, her world had crumbled. She lost her marriage, her trust in people, and a piece of herself in the process. Looking at her now, I could see the toll it had taken on her. She looked drained, like someone who had been fighting a losing battle for too long. Frank sat there, shame written all over his face. He didn't speak at first, just stared at his hands as if they held all the answers he had been searching for. I could tell he wanted to say something, to explain, to justify his actions. But what could he possibly say that would make any of it better? He had abandoned me without a second thought, without even giving me the benefit of the doubt. He had chosen to believe the worst of me, and that was something I could never forget. As I sat there listening to them, I realized something. I didn't feel anything. No anger, no sadness, no sense of vindication, just emptiness. Maybe once I had wanted this moment, had wanted them to see the truth and feel guilty for what they had done. But now that it was happening, it didn't bring me any kind of closure. The past was still the past, and no amount of apologies or explanations could change what had already happened. They wanted me to forgive them. They wanted to make things right. But could they? Could anything they said or did erase the pain, the betrayal, the years I spent trying to piece my life together after they shattered it so easily? I sat there for a while, letting their words sink in, before finally standing up. Whatever they had said, whatever they wanted from me, I had heard enough. Whether or not I was ready to forgive them, whether or not I even wanted to, was something only time could tell. But one thing was certain. I was no longer the person they had broken all those years ago. And I was not about to let them define my future. Update 2. It has been 2 months since I met them. I've been dating, but since Frank, I have not been able to completely commit to a relationship. It has been hard. Every time I start to feel comfortable with someone new, the past creeps in, reminding me of the betrayal, the abandonment, and the pain I went through. I try to push through it, but there is always a part of me that hesitates, that holds back, afraid of being hurt like that again. I thought moving forward would be easier. I told myself that time would dull the pain, that I would eventually let go of what happened and trust someone new. But the reality is, every time I feel something for someone, a voice in my head warns me not to. I second-guess everything. Does he really like me or is he pretending? Will he turn on me the way Frank did? Can I trust my own judgment anymore? It's exhausting, constantly questioning every little thing, and I hate that I still feel this way. To make things worse, Frank reached out. He sent me a message asking if I would like to meet for coffee. I stared at the message for a long time, unsure of how to feel. Part of me was angry that he thought he had any right to ask for my time after everything he had done. Another part of me was just tired, exhausted from carrying the weight of this for so long. I didn't respond for a while. I took time, a lot of time. I tried to imagine what he would say if I met him. Would he apologize again? Would he try to justify everything? Would he tell me he still has feelings for me? The thought of sitting across from him, hearing his voice again, made my stomach twist. What good could come from this? Nothing he says will undo the past, and I have spent so long trying to heal from it. But at the same time, I wondered, would seeing him give me the closure I never really got? The worst part is, a small part of me wants to see him. Not because I still love him, but because I want to understand. I want to look him in the eye and ask him if he ever really knew me at all. How could he have believed I was capable of betraying him like that? How could he have cut me off so easily without even giving me a chance to defend myself? And now, after all this time, what does he want from me? Still, I found myself typing out a response, agreeing to meet. I don't know why I did it. Maybe curiosity got the best of me. Or maybe I just needed to see for myself if he had changed at all. The thought of meeting him made my heart race. But I told myself I was doing this for me, not for him. The day of the meeting, I felt strangely calm. I walked into the cafe, scanning the room until I saw him. He looked different, older, maybe a little more tired. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of something. Nostalgia, maybe. But it disappeared as soon as he looked up and met my eyes. I sat down and he started talking. At first, it was awkward, like we were strangers making small talk. But then he finally got to the reason why he wanted to see me, and he told me he had spent a long time thinking about what happened, and he regretted how he handled things. He admitted that he had let his sister manipulate him, that he had been weak, and that he should have listened to me instead of jumping to conclusions. He said he had been in therapy, trying to work through everything, and that he had finally come to terms with the fact that he had been wrong. I listened, but I felt strangely detached. 3 years ago, I would have given anything for him to say those words. Now they just felt hollow. Regret didn't change what happened. Therapy didn't undo the fact that he had abandoned me without a second thought. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. He told me he still loved me. I don't know what I expected from this meeting, but it wasn't that. I thought he just wanted to apologize, to clear his conscience. I didn't think he would try to bring emotions into it. Hearing those words made me feel nothing but anger. If he had loved me, truly loved me, he never would have doubted me in the first place. Love is not supposed to be so fragile that it can be destroyed by a single lie. He asked if there was any chance we could try again. I just sat there, staring at him, feeling a mix of disbelief and frustration. After everything, he really thought he could just walk back into my life like nothing had happened. Like 3 years of pain and healing could just be erased because he suddenly realized he had made a mistake. I told him I needed time to think. It wasn't a lie. But it also wasn't the full truth. I already knew deep down that there was no going back. But part of me wondered if I should give myself a chance to process it all before making any final decisions. I walked out of the cafe feeling lighter but also unsettled. It was strange seeing him again, hearing him talk about regret and therapy and love. Part of me almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But mostly I just felt relieved that I was not the same person I had been 3 years ago. Now I have to decide what to do next. Do I tell him the truth and close the door on this chapter for good? Or do I let this linger a little longer, just to be sure? Either way, one thing is certain. I am not the woman who would have begged for his love anymore, and I never will be again. Update 3. It's been a strange couple of weeks. I've been in touch with Frank, and honestly, it feels weird, but also nice. After everything that happened, I never thought I'd even consider speaking to him again, let alone feel comfortable doing so. And yet, here we are. At first, it was just casual messages. He apologized again, not just for what happened, but for how deeply it affected me. I could tell he was struggling to find the right words. Part of me appreciated the effort, and another part of me kept wondering why I was even entertaining this. But the truth is, it didn't feel forced or painful. It just felt familiar. And maybe that is what scared me the most. We've talked a few times, nothing too deep, but enough to realize that despite the years apart, we still understand each other in a way that not many people do. That connection never really went away. The problem is, I don't know what to do with it. I've been trying to move on. I've dated, met new people, done my best to put the past behind me. But ever since Frank reached out, I feel like I've been second-guessing everything. Am I being foolish? Am I setting myself up for more pain? Or is this the closure I never got, finally working its way through? I don't know what I want from this. And maybe that is the real issue. I don't know if I'm just enjoying the comfort of what we had or if there's something still worth exploring. Maybe I am just trying to prove to myself that I'm over it when deep down I might not be. I have spent so much time thinking about the past, about how everything fell apart so quickly. The pain, the betrayal, the feeling of being completely discarded. It all left scars that I'm not sure will ever fully fade. And yet here I am, willingly reopening that door, if only just a crack. Is that a mistake, or am I simply giving myself permission to finally process it all in a way I never got to before? Frank has not pushed for anything. He has not asked for forgiveness or hinted at reconciliation. In fact, I don't even know what he wants out of this. Maybe he's just trying to ease his own guilt. Maybe he's as lost as I am. Maybe he just misses me. And as much as I hate to admit it, part of me misses him too. But missing someone and wanting to be with them again are two entirely different things. I've had to remind myself of that over and over again. It's easy to romanticize the good times when enough time has passed to dull the pain of the bad ones. I wonder if that is what's happening here. If nostalgia is making me see things through rose-colored glasses. The thing is, I don't know if I even trust myself to make the right choice. I don't want to get hurt again. I don't want to let him back in only to watch history repeat itself. I have worked hard to rebuild my life, to move forward, to convince myself that I'm better off without him. And for the most part, I have believed that. So why does this feel like such a setback? I have spent nights lying awake, replaying everything in my head. I think about all the times I cried over him, all the ways I doubted myself because of what happened. I think about how broken I felt and how much it took to put myself back together. And then I think about our recent conversations, about how easy it is to talk to him, about the comfort in something so familiar. It's a whirlwind of contradictions and I don't know what to do with any of it. I haven't told anyone yet. Not my friends, not my family. Part of me doesn't want to hear their opinions because I already know what they will say. They'll tell me to be careful. They'll remind me of everything I went through. They will ask me why I would ever entertain the idea of letting him back into my life in any capacity. And I won't have a good answer for them because I don't even have one for myself. Maybe I'm just curious. Maybe I'm just trying to make sense of it all. Or maybe I'm looking for something that's not even there. So, what do? Have any of you ever been in a situation like this? Would you take the risk, or would you walk away for good? Update 4. I considered trying with Frank again, but I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that he chose not to believe me. That kind of betrayal lingers no matter how much time has passed or how many apologies are given. When someone you love turns their back on you, especially when you need them the most, it changes something inside you. I spent so much time replaying everything, wondering if there was something I could have said or done to make him believe me back then. But the truth is, it was never about what I said. It was about what he was willing to believe. And he chose to believe the worst. So I made it clear that I can't be involved with him in any way. I called it off before it could even start. He said he understood, but I don't think that really changes anything. Understanding doesn't undo the past. It doesn't erase the nights I spent crying, the friendships I lost, the pain of being discarded like I never mattered. I told him there was no path forward for us. Not as lovers, not as friends, not even as acquaintances. It hurt, but it was the only choice that made sense.